Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. Grab your lunch pail. We are getting to work today. We got a ton of Q to do, and we've got some general strategy to talk about, and I want to get to that as quickly as possible. But first, I'm going to read through these. Keep in mind, I always read through once before doing the analysis, so if you want to skip through to that, just click on the timestamp below. Here we go, 1806. 9 minutes after the hour of 11 Eastern Daylight Time. Full attack mode. Washington Post leading. And then we have in brackets sample past 5 hours. And we get these links here to the Washington Post. Who owns the Washington Post? Amazon. What ABC agency is heavily tied to Amazon? And we've got a couple more links. Q. Post 1807. 13 minutes after the hour of 2. We get this graph here titled We Know 1. We know 2. We have a flow chart. We know 3. And then we have an old Q post from May 4th. We have this link here to justice.gov. Q says, Figure 3.1, FBI chain of command for the mid-year investigation. James Comey, FBI director, fired. Jim Rubicki, chief of staff, fired. Andrew McCabe, deputy director, fired. James Baker, Office of General Counsel, fired. Bill Priestap, head of counterintelligence, Strzok's boss. Power removed. Cooperating witness. Lisa Page, special counsel, fired. Peter Strzok, lead investigator, deputy assistant director of counterintelligence. Power removed, escorted out. And then we have Class F in brackets. Michael Steinbach, John Glacalone, Randy Coleman, Tricia Anderson, Kevin Kleinsmith, Tashina Gohar, Sally Moyer, nothing to see here. Logical thinking. Biggest cover-up in U.S. history. And in brackets we have attempted. Q. Post 1808. Q takes us back, 33 minutes after the hour of 2. Q takes us back to June 15th. And this is a link to all reporters and networks who have been named in the WikiLeaks to have colluded with the DNC or Hillary campaign during the 2016 election. Post 1809, 40 minutes after the hour of 2. We get this graphic regarding sealed indictments through 10/30/17 through 7/31/18. We have a Twitter link, Q. Post 1810, 31 minutes after the hour of 3, we have an Anon who posts a couple tweets from Eric Trump. The level of hatred and the willingness to disparage my family and our great company has never been so ugly and unrelenting as I have seen recently by the Washington Post. It is clearly coming from the top with one motivation in mind, at Jeff Bezos. And then we have this adding on to it here, basically saying the same thing. Q confirms and says, do you believe in coincidences? Q. Post 1811, 36 minutes after the hour of 3, responding to that. Q adds on by sending what looks to be a screenshot here of qmap.pub. Q says, what a wonderful day. Post 1812, 10 minutes after the hour of 4, an Anon posts this tweet from Representative Jim Jordan. Rod Rosenstein says he's doing what the oath of office obligates us to do. Then why has he failed to comply with congressional requests and subpoenas, been caught hiding information from Congress, and according to media reports, threatened staff on the House Intel Committee? And that's from August 3rd. And Q adds on by posting this post from, looks like July 25th. And this is the oath of what looks to be the FBI. Q adds on, think Ray yesterday, think Rod Rosenstein today. Comms understood. Do you believe in coincidences? Q. Post 1813, 32 minutes after the hour of 4, we get another link to GitHub. Infiltration. Q. Post 1814, 18 minutes after the hour of 5, we have across all major MSM networks in brackets. A link to Fox News. Q says full visibility has many advantages. Right on schedule. Q. At 1815, 26 minutes after the hour of 5, we have a couple links here. Q says we have the ServerS in brackets. Q. Okay, I'm going to move a little quicker through these posts than normal because I really want to get to a topic that I find immediate and very pressing right now, something that involves me and may involve you as well too. It involves all of us, and it's really important that I get to speak as clearly as I can so that we can get this message out. So let's get to the Q posts, and I have a feeling that some of these posts are going to kind of lead up to my point anyway. 1806, Q says full attack mode. Washington Post leading, sample pass 5 hours in brackets. Well, Washington Post has been leading the charge against Q, and it looks like the other day is no different. Okay, we've got 3 more articles. Now, I'm sorry, I'm behind a paywall with Washington Post, so I can't open these up for you, but you can see the title here. This is the moment how a wave of media coverage gave QAnon and once again conspiracy theorists their best week ever. Well, I don't know if it was our best week ever. We just had a rally and a bunch of us wore Q shirts, so it wasn't really a best week ever. It was just, I guess it was a good week. Okay, but once again, QAnon, they always have to tack on the word conspiracy theorists, and we need to be able to nail and call them on it. It's not okay to do. All right, and now this other one is there's a virus in Trump land. This next one is meet a real-life believer in the online pro-Trump conspiracy theory that's bursting into view. Couldn't even mention QAnon once again without having to tack on conspiracy theory. They want to make sure that that's what you know. Well, who owns the Washington Post? Jeff Bezos does, of Amazon. Bought it back in 2013 for $250 million. Let me take you down here to show you what some of the other subsidiaries are. The transaction covers the Washington Post and other publishing businesses, including the Express newspaper, the Gazette newspapers, Southern Maryland newspapers, Fairfax County Times, El Tiempo Latino, and Greater Washington Publishing, the company said. Pretty big deal. Well, it's not like Jeff Bezos needs the money, right? Why is he buying up all these papers? Sounds like he wants to control some information, yeah? Q asks us now, what ABC agency is heavily tied to Amazon? Well, that's pretty easy to figure out. Back in 2013, Bezos secured a $600 million contract with the CIA on behalf of Amazon Web Services. And who facilitated that transaction? That would be one James Clapper. And that was how Susan Rice was able to spy on Trump the whole time, because it basically became legal. Now, I'm speaking rather generally here, but essentially what happened is there was a big row over this. They wanted to have this cloud. Well, they do have this cloud that they use, and they wanted to transfer a whole bunch of data from the NSA service, from the NSA center. And where's that? It's in Utah. And they wanted to transfer it all over here. Now, IBM was also in the running for this too, and they got left out. And there were a lot of people complaining that this shouldn't be a proprietary system where only one company gets to control this. But that's exactly what happened. Okay? Now, I want to take you here. This is the cloud that we're talking about. November 20th, 2017. Amazon Web Services introduced Secret Region, a new service specifically for the CIA and the rest of the intelligence community. It's not really a secret service. Its name just indicates it can handle data that's been classified at the secret level. Okay, so you have top secret and then you have secret level. And that's what a lot of emails were. They were secret, right? Amazon has offered the CIA a top secret region since 2014 as part of a $600 million deal. The extension of that older CIA deal with this new secret service underlines the market dominance of AWS, and that's Amazon Web Services. The next article Q points us to is this Bloomberg article. CIA tech official calls Amazon cloud project transformational. Okay, they were singing the praises of this. This was back June 21st, not too long ago. Now, I just want to bring you to this part right here where it says Amazon's rivals. Keep in mind, it was this, I just mentioned it earlier, Oracle, IBM. They were also competing for this bid. Other technology companies jockeying for a piece of the Pentagon's cloud business have urged the Defense Department to pick multiple providers for the project, arguing that the Pentagon's requirements unfairly favor Amazon Web Services, the dominant cloud services provider. Choosing only one winner for the multi-billion-dollar contract would stifle innovation and raise security risks, the companies argue. Well, it looks like that's kind of what happened, yeah? Now, this program was known as the Joint Enterprise Defense Infrastructure, or JEDI. Okay, this cloud system. Now, Q is suggesting to us that the media, of course, is in full attack mode. We've already seen that. We've seen that from all angles. Washington Post seems to be leading the charge. And we see these next 3 links here are all from the Washington Post. And what are they dealing with? They're dealing with QAnon. They're not dealing with President Trump. They're not dealing with Russia. They're dealing with QAnon. Why are they going so hard against QAnon? If this was just about spying, if this was just about Russian collusion, if this was just about Uranium One, Iran, North Korea, they would be leading the charge against Trump himself. Why are they going after QAnon? Keep in mind, Washington Post, Amazon, CIA, and we just showed you the connection to where all the data goes up into this cloud server. Why is that important to know? Let me rememberize you from the other day. We were talking about this common sense media, Mr. Steyer, right? He's pretty anti-Trump himself, spending a bunch of money trying to get Trump impeached. He's also deeply related with Clinton's, their foundation. It all starts to connect. Who else is he connected with? Bill and Melinda Gates. He knows something about computers. The Bezos Family Foundation. Interesting. And then we've got this Sherwood Foundation as well. Well, what's this common sense media? What are they all about? Here's their main article here. Does your teen know how to deal with online predators? Yeah, that's a good question. Because if they did, they would know that this little heart logo right here is a known pedophile symbol off the FBI's official website. That's interesting. Now let me take you down here. We see again another one of the foundations they're related to is the Sherwood Foundation. What's in the middle of that tree? Another known pedophile symbol. Yeah, it could just be a heart. Could be just a coincidence. Maybe I'm just a conspiracy theorist, right? Maybe. But I think you see where I'm going with this. Like I said, if this was only about collusion, if this was only about spying, this charge would be against President Trump. But this charge is against QAnon. And what have they tried to relate QAnon conspiracy theorists to? Pizzagate. What's Pizzagate? Child abuse, child trafficking, child rape. It goes to many things, doesn't it? And it's something that we don't love to talk about, but it's relevant. And we can see here that it's prevalent. And they know, we know. Post 1807, we get these graphics here entitled We Know 1, We Know 2, and We Know 3. We Know 1 shows some communications between some various reporters and various special agents in charge. And there's lots of different people that were communicating in and out with these reporters. Now, the way to read this is very simple. You see some arrows are, and I'm sorry, I can't blow this up anymore, but some arrows are going both ways. Some are going in, some are going out, but you'll be able to tell. And then the numbers, you can see the different amount of frequency in which these communications took place. Some of the most over here in particular is this particular special agent in charge had 30 communications with this reporter. This FBI executive had 26. So there's some that obviously have had more than others, but that's how you can kind of read that. But Q is basically showing us this structure, and this is from the IG report, which Q also included. And that's right here, incidentally. We'll take a look at that in just a second. But here's the second one called We Know 2. And once again, you can see a lot of communications between this particular FBI executive and the reporter. But basically, Q's pointing out this is how it all worked. This is how information was spread and shared. And then we get down here to We Know 3. This is the chain of command for the mid-year investigation. And here you see at the top, Chief of Staff Jim Rubicki fired, James Comey fired, Andrew McCabe fired, Lisa Page fired, Jim Baker fired. And then we get down here, and we'll look back at that in just a second. Q posts this from May, talking about, this is showing the FBI and DOJ, all the people that were fired or retired or whatever, all the ones that left. And then Q adds on by giving us this right here, which of course is this. Now, we're not going to go way into this. It's a 568-page document, and you've seen it before. Okay, it's the OIG report. which leads me to think that these 20 pages that are going to be unredacted are likely to come very soon if they're not out already in some form, but I'm assuming that's what's going to drop next. Q points us to figure 3.1, the FBI chain of command for the mid-year investigation, all right? And that's this right here. And then reminds us that James Comey was fired, Jim Ripicki, Andrew McCabe, just like I told you, James Baker fired, Bill Priestap's power removed, cooperating witness, okay? And Lisa Page was fired. Peter Strzok, lead investigator, deputy assistant director of counterintelligence, power removed / escorted out. While we're on Peter Strzok, let me touch on this really quick. A lot of you guys were asking about the Coke bottle thing from yesterday's video in relations to this girl, Kate, who wanted to hug Trump at the rally yesterday. Now, clearly there was something up to that Coke bottle on Peter Strzok's table when he was testifying. He was clearly sending out a message. I don't think it was to that particular Kate. However, I do think there's something to the Coke bottle. That's just my opinion. Now, Q takes us to this section of new names. They're not necessarily new names, but new names on the list. Michael Steinbach, John Glacalone, Randy Coleman, Tricia Anderson, Kevin Kleinsmith, Tashina Gohar. Let's talk about those two real quick. Kevin Kleinsmith and Tashina Gohar. Well, they were shown here on this chart. Looks like they were our attorneys, 1 and 2. Remember when Devin Nunes was asking about the one who spoke French? Could this have been our Tashina Gohar? Now, this is very interesting because we were just talking about Coke bottles as well, too. If you remember, Mike Pompeo testified before the Foreign Intelligence Committee in regards to Helsinki, and he had himself a little Coke bottle too. And on that Coke bottle looks to be the name Tanisha. Tanisha? Tashina? Tanisha? Tashina? I don't know. But it looks like some messages are getting passed on bottles and Coke bottles and all that kind of stuff. Interesting stuff. Now look, not exactly sure where all of these new names fit in, but it looks like our conversation was between this Kleinsmith and this Gohar. And Kleinsmith had a connection to Sally Moyer as well, as you can see in the chart here. Supervisory Special Agent Sally Moyer, who was in contact with Peter Strzok. So that leads me to think that possibly there was a message being sent on that Coke bottle from Pompeo as well. All right. So as far as what happens with these new names, it wouldn't surprise me if these 20 pages are going to show not only how, but who all these connections were. And they're going to probably show some very, very damning connections that's going to bring this all down. Q says nothing to see here. Logical thinking, biggest cover-up in U.S. history. Attempted. Yeah, well, they didn't quite pull it off, did they? Now, I'm not exactly sure what classified F, if it's in relations to some sort of intelligence level, but I'll tell you that I saw this just looking at it from afar like so. I just noticed the class F attempted as the two words in brackets. Now, is it possible that Q could be indicating that there was a possible class F being a long-range sniper shooting attempted on the president? Not really sure, but I saw those words isolated that way and I thought I would at least point that out. But as you can see, Q is giving us basically the whole breakdown of how, and it looks like we're going to find out exactly who very soon. Let's move on. Post 1808, Q takes us back to June 15th. These reporters and networks have been named in the WikiLeaks to have colluded with the DNC or Hillary campaign during the 2016 election. And as you can see, many of our main publications, news stations, many names implicated here. And it looks like we can basically plug all these names into this graph back here. So essentially, kids, this is what ends up culminating in our 4 a.m. talking points. Getting intel from all these knuckleheads over here to all these mainstream media knuckleheads over here by way of this, and all protected up in this cloud. Post 1809, Q takes us to this, which is a list of sealed indictments, thousands upon thousands of indictments. We already knew about this. Q gives us this Twitter link here, and that takes us to this Stormwatcher Twitter, just another updated list. And if you want to back it up, you can go over here to Stormwatcher, and it looks like at DA Martin 32, and you can back up your files here. So it looks to me like whatever's about to drop is going to show exactly the names that were implicated in those graphs. And it looks like it's going to come off of this list. Would not surprise me. And this is going to be a very, very big deal. After all, these are the same people that are going after QAnon incredibly hard. More so than ever before. Like I said, they're not just going after Trump anymore. They're going after QAnon. It's going to bring a lot of things down. Post 1810. Now, essentially, these tweets are the same tweets here. And Q, you can see, is acknowledging two different Anons about the same point. But the tweet is from Eric Trump. The level of hatred and the willingness to disparage my family and our great company has never been so ugly and unrelenting as I have seen recently by the Washington Post. It is clearly coming from the top with one motivation in mind, at Jeff Bezos. Well, we already explained the Jeff Bezos Washington Post connection. But it's also a Q proof in the fact that earlier back in 1806, Q had posted about the Washington Post and related it to Jeff Bezos. Now we get Eric Trump tweeting about Washington Post and Jeff Bezos. Q says, do you believe in coincidences? Q. In the next post, 1811, adding on to that, we get a screenshot from Q in reference to the Washington Post and Jeff Bezos. As a matter of fact, it's Q's post. 1806 from off of qmap.pub. Q says, what a wonderful day. Q has mentioned the phrase before, what a wonderful day. Maybe he's just being chipper, but I can't help but think that Q is referring us back to the idea of this Google operation. I'm taking you back here to post 1522, where Q mentions this Google op. Google op provided undeniable proof. Well, remember, Eric Schmidt stepped down from Google right after the presidential executive order. This was back in December. December 21st was when Eric Schmidt stepped down. How do you share what you already know? Well, what would we already know from Google? Could it be that Eric Schmidt coughed up some servers? Maybe those servers that he was there to set up out in North Korea. How do you share that legally? Well, I would imagine it has to be implemented either as evidence or probably more likely testimony. Someone probably has to be able to volunteer it for it to be legally injected. Those who don't act now know they cannot hide the reasons why. What a wonderful day. So I think Q is saying we've got the server, and I'm assuming that Q is probably referring somewhere back to these Google servers. Now there's multiple servers, but I think overall Q is just simply saying that we have the servers. Now those who don't act now know they cannot hide the reasons why. Who needs to act right now? Could it be our boy Rod Rowe? Post 1812 and Anon takes us to this tweet from Jacketless Jim Jordan. Rod Rosenstein says he's doing what the oath of office obligates us to do. Then why has he failed to comply with congressional requests and subpoenas, been caught hiding information from Congress, and according to media reports, threatened staff on the House Intel Committee? Q comes back and gives us post 1699 where we have the oath of office. And here we have Representative Jim Jordan referencing the oath of office. So it looks like Rod Rowe's buddies are calling him out, telling him to remember you owe it to your country, to yourself, to your children. Now Q says, think Ray yesterday. Well, Ray said yesterday, intelligence officials are not yet seeing the same kind of reports to specifically target election infrastructure as in 2016, but rather information warfare carried out through propaganda efforts on social media. And that was as per the Washington Post. So Ray is trying to allude to the fact that they're trying to clear and clean up Russian election efforts. And then Q says, think Rod Rosenstein today. Rod Rosenstein today defended skilled officials at the Department of Justice, saying they are obligated to make decisions that do not please all the people all the time. This is off the Hill. Politico reported that Rosenstein did not mention a recent attempt by conservative lawmakers to impeach him or special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation during his remarks at the American Bar Association's annual meeting in Chicago. but that he did receive a minute-long standing ovation. President Trump selected a superb team of skilled and principled lawyers to lead the Department of Justice and our U.S. Attorney's Office, Rosenstein said at the meeting. Our decisions do not please all the people all the time, in case you haven't noticed, he added to applause from the crowd. So, could that be some foreshadowing? Is Rod Rowe still in a pickle, getting some pressure from Jacketless Jordan? And it looks to me like Rod Rowe has no place to go. Now, the only reason Rod Rowe is still where he is by the good graces of his peers. And I think we realize that. Q is saying, comms, understood. Yeah, it looks to me like he's getting called out and reminded of his oath of office by Jacketless Jim Jordan, who's ready to wrestle at any minute. So it looks like wherever this comes from, if we get these 20 pages coming out, could it be that Rod Rosenstein capitulates and brings us these 20 pages and ends up putting a little white on that hat? Q says, do you believe in coincidences? Not anymore. Q. Post 1813, Q takes us to this GitHub link and says infiltration. And it takes us here. Now it's GitHub. It looks kind of like a Reddit thread. It's locked. You can't comment on it. But as you'll see as I scroll down, there's a lot of red here, meaning that a lot of these comments are being removed. And some of these are, they're kind of different kinds of comments being removed. Some are good, some are bad. But I think what the point is that it looks like these mods are having to work overtime to monitor these boards. And Q has made the point that they're infiltrated, meaning that these are going to be, whether it's Reddit, GitHub, 8chan, 4chan, down below, even in the comment section on YouTube, Twitter, it's all going to get infiltrated. Okay, we're going to be swimming in bots. And we probably already are now. And the infiltration's real. If you follow me on Twitter, I said the other day, it's not going to be long. Not going to be long before some of us content creators get turned against you as well, too. Now, for those of you who've been following QAnon for a while, you're probably already settled in. You've chosen your sources. You know what you like to listen to or watch or read or whatever it might be, whether it be blogs or whatever kind of content you choose to absorb. And so I think most of you guys are kind of dialed in with that. But we get new viewers and new listeners, new subscribers every day. To those of you, I say welcome. One of your best places to start is right down below in the comment section, okay? Now, you may hear the term autist. There were a few of you that asked what the autists are. Autists, basically, Q is referring to us geniuses, all right? Now, the people on 8chan, they like to call themselves autists because, well, they're brilliant. They've got their own little special kind of brilliance going on, okay? And that name kind of caught on. It's sort of a term of endearment. But essentially, the genius is right down below, okay? It's not reserved just for 8chan. I feel particularly this channel has a very, very special crew. Many of you guys are constantly down below helping the new people figure out things. And I really, really highly encourage that, especially at this time. Now, if you're new to Q, I would highly suggest to you that you keep your sources few and just stick with the ones that you trust and let them be consistent for you. I find it very, very important to not go off into the weeds. Don't go looking at the flavor of the week, because we've got one every week. Every week you're going to hear about XYZ Anon is Q, and so just came out and debunked Q. And oh, look at this new Twitter channel. I bet it's so and so claiming to be Q, claiming to be related to Q, claiming to know something about this Q Anon phenomenon. Keep your sources simple. Keep it all simple. It will help you. If you're confused, ask questions. If you're scared, keep it simple. If you're pumped up and you're ready to go and you're ready to act, good. Keep it simple. Now's not the time to go off into the weeds. Now's the time to keep our eyes on the prize and keep digging forward. We're just about to round a corner here. They're scared. They're on the ropes. We got to finish the round with a flurry. Now, post 1814. Q says across all major MSM networks. And then gives us this Fox link. Full visibility has many advantages, right on schedule Q. And that takes you here. And sure enough, Fox News has joined the crew talking about QAnon. Although this has a slightly different tone. What is QAnon? The conspiracy theory group showing up to Trump rallies. As President Trump has traveled across the country this week, a number of spectators have been spotted holding up giant cutouts of a letter Q and wearing t-shirts with the hashtag #WeAreQ. So who are they? under the radar until now. They are members of the fringe right-wing group QAnon, which believes in massive conspiracies in the media and the so-called deep state to take down Trump. The group is just hitting the right audience at the right time given the right circumstances. Joseph Usinski, a University of Miami professor who co-authored the book American Conspiracy Theories, told the Associated Press. He said the topics appeal to many who are already inclined to believe conspiracy theories. Read on for a look. Okay, so I'm going to let you read this, especially if you're new. This What Does the Group Believe is a great place to kind of read. But the thing about this article in particular, in contrast to all the other articles that we've seen, is that although they do call it a conspiracy theory, they don't necessarily rail against QAnon. They don't necessarily disparage QAnon. I think it was the right move to do. They left it sort of nebulous, which is exactly what Fox News needs to do right now. They do need to participate. And yet, I don't think Fox News wants to take a hard stand either way. I think that's for a reason, and we'll leave it at that. But, here you go. At least they're presenting it and then just sort of leaving it for you. But it just basically talks about, the calm before the storm and how it got all started and whatever. Now, they do mention this guy that was arrested near the Hoover Dam again, which has got to get debunked. Okay, it has nothing to do with QAnon, and it's very important that people don't, realize it has nothing to do with it. So I would say this is about as deep as Fox was able to go and still look like they were trying to be objective about it. And I can at least appreciate that. We've got to understand the role that Fox News plays in all this, regardless of whether we trust them or not. At least they're not railing super hard against us. But Q says full visibility has many advantages. Yeah, because at least this gives you a chance to kind of look into it. Okay? Now, it doesn't necessarily pump the theory up, but it doesn't necessarily shoot it down either. And that's about all we really, really need to get ahead. Q says right on schedule. Yeah, how about that? We got a whole volley full of attacks. And Fox just kind of came in just before the door closed. Right on schedule. Full visibility has many advantages. It puts us in the spotlight. But remember, Q says handle with care. Let's move on. Post 1815. Q gives us this link to Judicial Watch, a second link here, and a third link to Twitter. Now, I can't click on this without taking you off of this page, so I won't, but it's a specific request that we'll get to in just a second. But the first link takes you here, and we can thank Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch, because he's fitting to get us some documents, and he got us. Looks like 158 pages of stuff. And as you can see, looks like a bit of a mess. Now, I'm just seeing this like probably a lot of you are, so there's still a lot of things to go through, but it looks like an absolute mess. But there's a lot of gems in here as well, too. But I think Q's going to help us out on this one for now by taking us to this Twitter link of Jordan Schachtel right here. And let me just read you a couple of his most recent tweets here. FBI has released new info on Hillary Clinton investigation. Most interesting thing I've seen thus far is timeline documenting back and forth between DOJ and Hillary's lawyers over what they could and could not see. A lot of negotiating. Was she hiding something? Well, I think we all kind of have our own suspicions there, but you can see they're asking for server equipment. Response to 921 WNC letter. So there's a lot of things that they're trying to get here. And it looks like tons and tons of correspondence. That's one part of all these documents. But let's take you to the fun part here. More. Surprise! Hillary's lawyers announced that there is a successor server that they can request access to. FBI is not thrilled with the revelation. Look at this. Now, the name is redacted, as you can see. On behalf of former Secretary of State Clinton, I want to reiterate our desire to facilitate the security inquiry. We understand the department is conducting, at the behest of the intelligence community, Inspector General into the storage of recently classified emails at the hdr22@clintonemail.com address. As you know, shortly after this inquiry was announced, we voluntarily provided a thumb drive and copies and the server equipment which supported this email account during the Secretary's tenure at the State Department. I also shared with you that the Secretary would voluntarily answer any questions you may have. Should you need to assess or access, it looks like assess, the successor server, which for a time hosted this address, and the successor hrod17@clintonemail.com address, We also would be happy to assist you in that regard, consistent with maintaining the privacy of other email accounts that are not part of your inquiry. In short, we want to facilitate the efficiency of this security inquiry and look forward to learning from you if there are ways which we can be of assistance. And this is and this is from David E. Kendall. So, how about that? We got ourselves a successor server. We couldn't get our hands on the ones that we wanted. Those were bleach bitten, those were ruined, and those were, God knows what they did with it. But we got a successor server, so that's handy. It's the next best thing, right? Obviously, the FBI is not thrilled with that revelation. But there are a lot of revelations within these documents, I'm quite sure, and I want to turn you on right here. I believe it starts about, page 72. Looky here. Pictures. Looks to be a server to me. Looks like a server. Look at that. How about that? Cisco. Look at that. So it does look like we have some things. Here's a thumb drive. Whoa, MAC, Mac. Hey, is that me? Hey, look, it was one time in Thailand, all right? I was younger and it was, it's MAC. I spell mine MACK. No, I'm good. It's just a thumb drive. Whew. All right, this one says wiped. So you can see what's going on here. Looks like we do have the server, and Q confirms by saying we have the servers. And as you know, there's multiple servers, like the server that was North Korea. There was, of course, the ones, looks like in relations to these documents, the ones that Hillary was bitten and smashing and doing whatever, you know? So multiple servers, and it looks like we have more than one, and that is really, really good news. And that would explain all of these concentrated attacks. Like I said, not just on President Trump, but on QAnon. And that means something so much bigger than politics and this FISA abuse. This goes into everything we've been talking about for, oh gosh, how many months has it been now? I think you understand, right? Very good news here. Now, those are all your Q posts. And on that, I want to talk to you a little bit about what we talked about yesterday, over the last couple of days. We were talking about game theory, right? And as you can see throughout these posts, the attacks on QAnon are stepping up, and they're only going to get worse. So, like I said, please just keep it simple. This is one of those times where you're going to get hit with bots. You're going to get hit with lots of attacks on your character, and it's just a volley. And sometimes when you're charging towards the other crew and they launch all their arrows at you, sometimes you just got to stop, take a knee, put up your shield, and let it go. And as soon as it passes, you keep trudging forward. And that's what we're doing. Now, we scored a big win with all those Q signs and Q coming into the sort of the public narrative. Now, it's not the way we would have liked it to enter, but it was the only way we knew it was going to happen, right? And like Q said, full visibility has many advantages. Now, on that, I'm going to share with you a personal story, and I'm going to keep it vague for my own personal reasons. It's really for the sake of all of us. I've been approached by a couple major media conglomerates to start talking about QAnon. And I want to make it very, very clear that although that might be very, very exciting and it might seem like an opportunity worth taking, I think we need to be very careful with how we enter the public narrative. And I want to take you back to a Q post back here, 1788. Who is the one person who can answer? This guy right here. Keep in mind, folks, actors are acting. Operators never divulge. Now, when POTUS gives us the green light on Q, I think that's the time that we can enter the mainstream. And I talked about this the other day about having the proper spokespeople, and it's not really just about that. It's about having the proper image for QAnon and what it is. And you've already seen over the last 48 hours the massive attack that we've endured. And we need people to understand that we are not the danger they perceive us to be. Now, POTUS will give us a green light at some point. And this is just my humble opinion. But I do think we might want to scale it back and wait for that green light. Now, that doesn't mean we have to shut up about Q. That doesn't mean that we have to stay silent by any means. But here's what I would like to suggest when it comes to entering the mainstream media narrative. We've seen already with this plethora of links that they don't mean us any fortune, do they? They want to make sure that they drive this into the ground. So what would make us think that going on mainstream media TV right now would be the smartest idea? We have to pick our spots and know when to strike. And I'm just suggesting, we just came off a winning round. Let's let it all shake out first. Let's let POTUS give the green light to the movement, and then we'll move forward. Now, you can take what I'm saying and you can throw it in the trash if you like. And I'm going to puff up my chest for just a minute, because I want to let you know that I may not be the greatest Q decoder. As a matter of fact, I know I'm not the greatest Q decoder. There are some of you that are so brilliant with some of this stuff, and I don't really think it necessarily matters. But where I am speaking from experience is in the entertainment industry. If there's one thing I know, it is the entertainment industry. And you can take what I say or leave it. But I will offer to you this. It will seem like a welcome opportunity to jump into that interview, to get on that show. And they're going to lull you into thinking you're some kind of VIP. And the second the lights are on and that microphone's in your face, the jackals will come out. And they're going to start coming after us that way. It's not going to just be in print, folks. And we're seeing it already. There will be a time that we can move forward and speak out. But I would suggest to you that we hold off, see what happens. Let me put it to you this way. Let's start off the season with a home game. Let's not play on their field. Let's wait until it's a home game. That way we can have home field advantage. Because at this moment, we don't have a whole lot of structure. We've got a whole lot of people. We don't have a whole lot of structure. And I think it's fair to say that. Now, that being said, we are artists. We are genius. We are the elite. We're the meme makers. We know what we're doing. But let's make our entrance to the main stage a big, fat win. Now, I'm keeping it vague. Some of you may understand what I'm talking about. Now, there was a particular Anon who emailed me, and thank you for turning me on to that content. I handled it. I've been in direct contact with a few of these major conglomerates, and I think it's important to hold off for the right moment, and let's get the green light first. Now, that's just what I'm saying. You can take it or leave it. But I think it would be wise for us to be really, really smart about how we enter the topic of conversation. Because right now, mainstream media is not exactly pro-Q, are they? They're spending a lot of time to make sure we look like we're getting clowned. So don't think for a second that if you've got yourself a interview, that those people are going to be pro-Q. Now, maybe they will. And if so, do what you got to do. At the end of the day, you'll know what to do. But let's remember, keep our eyes on the prize, and we're going to get ourselves a big fat win. Those are your Q posts for today. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. And all my links down below will take you where you need to go. I'm on Gab, I'm on BitChute, I'm on Real.Video. I am on, what else am I on? I don't know. My Patreon link is down below. All my links are down below. You can get all that information there. If any new Q posts come up, I will be on top of it as soon as possible. And until then, keep focused. Keep your chin down, your hands up. There's much love for you here. This is Sir Patrick Mack with In Pursuit of Truth. And until next time, stay frosty.